Who doesn't love cheese? I can barely keep my hands off it. Any kind of cheese. But today specifically, we're going to talk about Land O'Lakes food service cheese, the extra melt line of cheese. This is a cheese that's brought to you by 1,000 farmer owners that make up this Land O'Lakes cooperative. And sure, we know Land O'Lakes for their butter, but this extra melt line of loaves, shreds, and sauces is an excellent, versatile base. It's a great starting point. Beautiful flavors on its own, but you can make them your own as well and adapt like we always do in kitchens. Land O'Lakes Food Service will help you adapt and have deliciously, decidedly, wonderfully beautiful results. All right, Land O'Lakes Food Service. Give them a shot.
Hey, y'all, it's Niver, and this is Niver Niver Land. Today's guest is Marcus Samuelsson. I have had the honor of working with Marcus in the past, and since that time, about 25 years ago, obviously, he's gone on to do so many great things. You'll hear us today chatting about a lot. The new, the old, and the good. Here we are, Marcus Samuelsson and I, Niver, on Niver Niver Land. You still chill with Nils at all? You still see Tomas and Roger at all? Do you see that old crew?
I see them sometimes. I mean, Nils I definitely see in New York. Roger's in Stockholm, so we shoot an email here and there. And Thomas, I went back. Thomas, I worked with again.
You do?
Not now, but back maybe up until 4 years ago, we worked together on a project in Stockholm. And Roger's always hitting me up for reservations or hey man, this is going on. So. It's great.
Happy anniversary, Marcus. I've known you for 25 years. It was about 25 years ago. And thinking back to that crew and that time and that place here in Minneapolis, I was so lucky to land here after Vegas and to have a place like yours to come to. I really feel like thank God at the time that you were here, and that I could go from a city that was just kind of burgeoning and blowing the fuck up at that time to Minneapolis and not have it feel too small. It was reaching for the city at the time, and I was just so glad. Sam DeMarco hooked us up.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think that I always remember Minneapolis. For me, Minneapolis have a long story with it even before, being the city of Prince, you know what I mean? For me, it starts with that, I knew about Minneapolis in my 80s dorm, when I was a kid because of Jimmy Jam and Terrell Lewis and Prince and all of that stuff, right? So it wasn't LA, it wasn't New York, but it was this place that had similar climate as we had. Prince has a song called Sometimes It Snows in April. It's a really slow song, and I'm like, whoa, that's Sweden. Sometimes it snows in April for us.
You can relate.
Yeah, so it was this non-super glitzy part of America that most artists, even if they came from a place, they always talked about it from an LA or New York point of view, and Prince Roger Nelson always talked about it from Minneapolis
Absolutely.
point of view, which was so cool. So that was the first thing, and part of the joy is when you say why yes to something. I was like, yes, I'm going to be closer to Prince, but then also the craftsmanship. I really enjoyed working and being part of something. I felt like what was happening in the city was this bridge to this moment. I think what Minneapolis has been going through the last 10 years, which is becoming this fantastic food town. And it was there, I just love the vibrancy of Uptown, for example, all those mom and pops. And I'm like, the flavor, I was drawn to it, no, whatever they're doing, whatever this emergent scene is, because it was mom and pop, but it was also merging to, the kids were merging to something else, and the Hmong community, the Somali community, the Ethiopian. There was always this underbelly of stuff that I was I really like,
It's still here that way. It's still here that way. We went
mature, more fully realized now, I would
Yes,
say.
there's been, even though everybody had to pivot and figure out COVID, I still feel like, some of the descendants of other chefs are taking the reins in their own places,
Mm.
and elevating the scene. But still, that mom and pop scenario is alive and well here. We were at Tea House over off a White Bear yesterday morning, and
Mm.
I just couldn't believe the quality of this food, and it almost didn't feel like East St.
Yeah.
Paul, like where am I? And it was really good, and a reminder to everybody that
Mm-hmm.
University Ave is just full of all kinds of these great restaurants. The city does
Yeah.
have that, man. So you mentioned Hmong, and now you have Diane Mua, who we both worked with for a while, doing Diane's, and Vinay with Yia, and just to see these cultures and restaurants
Mm-hmm.
come about. Finally, Yia was fighting for this restaurant for 6 years, and I think it's part of the grind he had to be on to get it open. Like sometimes you have to grind like that. You have to commit and get through it. But I just love to see how that's rising up here even in a finer way, like like an evolved way, like their culture evolved. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, but there's a lot of unsung heroes and a lot of people that lay the groundwork. I always say, first of all, big shout out to JP Samuelsson. Like JP for me, he was always the pinnacle of what we tried to do. He was always the guy that uh, I thought about in terms of craftsmanship, and I really admired um, his commitment to excellence. And now he's crushing it with Andrew Zimmern, which has also had a major part of this. He every time he's all the time he's on the road, he mentions Minneapolis and he mentions the scene. He always talks obviously really well about Chef Gavin, but he mentions other people as well. So Zimmern is out there as an ambassador for the city, and wherever that is, Pebble Beach, Miami, New York, where he does his dinners, uh, and JP is part of that, and their dinners are always amazing. So there's a lot of I think like with Chef Gavin done such an amazing job of centralizing that and having Midwestern cooks saying you don't have to go to New York. You don't have to. You could go to New York, but you could also come back. You could go to San Francisco, but you could come back in a way that you know, almost the way that Charlie Trotter had for American cuisine in the '90s, right? Like with Chef Trotter, you knew that you could go to Chicago and get the best schooling in cooking in the world, which is what like not Paris, not New York. You go to Chicago, and with Gavin's commitment and his programs and his commitment to students, you know, as an outsider looking in, I could not be more proud and not more excited for what's happening.
Yeah, he
The
picked
great
up the
thing that's come
torch,
about it.
dude. Like
Yeah.
and not to, I've been just recounting memories, but it just reminds me of all the dinners we did back in the day, and how that those collaborative efforts, bringing folks from the coasts here,
Mhm.
bringing attention here. We
Yeah.
started talking about music and
Yeah.
the art culture. It was Art World here this weekend. Those things are so vibrantly attended. Like
Mhm.
people do dig that stuff, like deep hardcore here music and the arts, and that's a big deal for you. Is certainly a connector. It's certainly a
Yeah.
connector.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. No, always big. Special shout out for me to Twin Cities will always be big in my American cooking experience. Like you're right, I've been in America for 30 years. Came here to really just test my wings. I just came out of France. Was in Lyon at a three-star. Not really Lyon, in Vaunas, a small village outside. Worked at a three-star Michelin restaurant. I just felt like I needed to come to America. And Aquavit was that opening for me for so many Swedes
mhm.
that you can work here. There's a place in New York where you can work. Just having that opportunity, I'm always forever grateful for. And then like most people, when you get an opportunity, it's like, okay, what do you do with that, right? And there were moments where it was very challenging, right? Like running a restaurant after 9/11. Who cared about fine dining at that moment? No one, right? And, after the financial crisis 2008, these are major, after COVID, right? So these are blocks and things that are so much larger than yourself and really makes you think, pause, what am I doing? What are we doing? Uh, but those things have always also made me think about how much I love the industry. That there is a purpose, and I should continue, and I should continue to push forward. So,
Well, I've never seen you stop really. Like it was so cool, like I say, coming in from Vegas, landing here in Minneapolis, landing in a place with you and then having the expectations here in this town placed upon me. I'm just, I'm remembering how you at that young age and you'd have them fax reservations through to you, the New York reservations through to you, and you'd be like, PX this, we're going to do this or this, and you fax it back. And then all of a sudden the menu for the night's coming through, like just the things that we had to do back in the day. I remember you pushing me out in the dining room. Dara Moskowitz came in and you're like, Niver, go. She's here, go. And you literally were like, go connect, go. And I'll never forget that. Those were some really cool foundational times. Great place. But Minneapolis, moving on, trying hard. There's pockets of really goodness. There's neighborhoods with these little tiny places that just start to like connect the dots with a neighborhood charm, like these pivot points that you mentioned. It's really nice to kind of start to see a little bit of that push again here. I feel like, it was a little tough and like Minneapolis, St. Paul are kind of hanging on to some things instead of kind of reaching out. And we talked briefly in my car about how you need those connectors. Like you need to have people continuing to push and expand the city, but also like build those communities back up, like have confidence in Minneapolis and bring people down here and get the community vibrant again. It's starting, Marcus. How does New York feel? Did New York like come back fully? Do you feel like it's a new time?
Well, I think it's, New York is, we're so fortunate, right? Because there will always be, if New York is New York, right? So there will always be, the Javits Center will be busy. There will always be a week of something, whether it's Fashion Week or finance or something. We're not hitting the tourist number that we had before COVID, but we still get a good, tourism is still a big part of what we need and do, right? And I think like anything, a lot of people in New York, it's tough for a lot of restaurants, and with this unknown, we're living in a world of unknown. Like, what is this pricing going to be? What is this? So that makes it very hard, not just in New York, but anywhere to operate, but particularly a place like New York where rent is such a expensive and big part, and staffing is a huge part of how you can execute. But I think you don't get to choose a good year or a bad year if you do this, right? That's like you're going to have a run and it's going to feel amazing. You can have it in very tough times. We all heard those stories that companies that grew out of COVID, and then you can see. So I think as an operator, you just got to open and do your thing regardless of the time, and then you got to price correct it and be on point on that time. And if you hit a wind, go with it, right? So I've never felt there's been a great time to open a restaurant, and I never felt, like when
it's too fucking hard to have it be a great time, kind of.
And I'll tell you a little bit about, Havmar, a Swedish inspired restaurant in Chelsea, art and Swedish inspired restaurant in Chelsea. It was really developed during COVID. During that first, I had a little bit more time, so I had time to pause. And then, I was teaching Zion how to swim, and we were in nature a lot, and it was COVID time, so school was on again, off again, so he spent a lot of time with me. And so much of that restaurant comes from that, me explaining our Ethiopian identity and our Swedish identity. Therefore, a word we came up with hav mar, like honey is mar in Ethiopian and Amharic, and hav is Swedish, means ocean. So that was because of past, and I want to explain to my family that you are both. You're actually three. You're American. But you also have these two other things inside of you that we should talk about, and that will always be yours. And the other part about it was really Chelsea was that community that I came to in the '90s. That there were clubs there, a ton of, but there was also the place where if you wanted to see art of all levels, whether it was graffiti or galleries or those creative communities that we are so often as creators drawn to. So there was a community of love there that I feel connected to. So anyway, so Almar really came out of this pause, and then obviously its commitment to women leadership and women in senior positions in restaurant. And I'm like, have I done enough? Have I been asking those questions as an ally? How do I create this next step, and how do we articulate it? I'm not sure if I would have just been chipping away at my normal pace, I would have been able to be that articulate, right? So that pause really made me think about how do I move forward, and things like I'm building out the Rise residency, because residency was always where my artist friends achieved or went to, right? I came up at a time with major artists, Julie Hector, Derek Adams, Sanford Biggers were all dear friends of mine. And they were always achieving the way we used to do stages and go away. They did this residency. And they explained it to me that, oh, you can go away and you can work on your art. And it was a sense of reconnecting back into whatever comes next. And I'm like, that would be amazing for young chefs to be able to go away, not just working 18 hours a day, but actually think about ideas and how they saw themselves in the food space. So I'm building out this Rise residency, and we're launching it this year. And we're going to pick one or two young chefs that's going to be able to go upstate, live in this amazing place called Dunstan Hill, near the Catskills. And we have partners like Guggenheim. They're going to have dinners there, and we have other media partners and stuff. So those are the type of things that you can think through when you really have time to think.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any other moments of pause since then? That was a forced pause we all had, and it was kind of uncomfortable, right? And I think a lot of people used it to their benefit. You see what came out of that pause since that pause. If there's another time or a moment where you've, in the past 4 years, where you've kind of been like, or where you had to check in on your track and be like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Any other moments where you get to like sit back and get a perspective?
No. I would like to say yes, but no. I think just us, what saved me during COVID, besides my family, was the community of chefs. I used to call Jonathan Waxman almost every day. And, we got on these calls, whether it was speaking to Colicchio, whether it was speaking to Gavin, or whether it was speaking to, my friends in the community. And it was everything from problem solving and sharing resources to, but how you feel, how you do it. And we all knew someone that was either struggling or passed away. So it was a grief, it was talking, it was sharing. But we always try to end on a positive note. And it made me realize how much I love the industry and the people, not just the restaurants, but like the people behind the restaurant, the vendors, the community at large. And I'm going to continue. And these days when, day during the pandemic for me could be like, getting changed, walking up to the restaurant, working with World Central Kitchen, feeding 700 people, 800 people, doing that for months. But starting to have the same dialogue with them as you have with regular customers, like, hey man, the chicken was better yesterday. How come we get apple pie today? We I like the orange better or whatever. It was real dialogue, real structure, and as a chef, you just wanted that
Yeah,
feedback.
and you want to take care, you want.
Yeah, you want to take care, and so there was this normal moment of normalcy that we all needed, and we got that through sharing and handing out food, and it's very often through the worst of times that you see the best in people. A couple of months ago, I was fortunate enough to be um, in LA, and I decided to go and work with World Central Kitchen there. To I just need to get out of my system. I just need to be in service, and during the fires, and you the drive into the scene, right, where in Altadena, where how randomly it struck. One house can be not untouched, a block can be completely gone, and blocks, and you drive through this, and you realize these are all mom and pops. These are all that Jamaican mom and pop that took kids through college, and we also had great jerk chicken in. That was that Indian restaurant or whatever. These were not major, but these were very important for that community. And just working service there a couple of days was just in the worst of times. You always see the best in people, and Jose and his team just such incredible work. Um, and that's another side of cooking and our industry that I'm really proud of.
Agreed. Hey man, I think everything's based in love. I'm like I'm a softie. The Italian comes over. I think everything's kind of based in love, but I definitely lead with compassion. I definitely lead with compassion now. That person that walks in the door, you don't know. You really don't know what they're bringing with them, and so if I start with, I'm so cool in my restaurant or whatever, that doesn't work. It's compassion. It's like looking at a person and serving who they are in that moment, and that's okay. And that's really beautiful to try to connect there. And with employees, like leading with compassion and just saying, hey, how is it going for you today? Not, like, are you good? Like just a little check-in. And it's not like everything's going to be hunky-dory. We shouldn't expect every day to be dope. Like, like happiness is a pursuit. But when you have a place that there's compassion and that your leaders are compassionate for your life and your style of stuff and what could possibly be happening to you, I think that's so effective and a really like cornerstone of culture. It's just everybody's got a space in our place, and it's really cool that you reached out and that perspective is what you needed, like disconnecting from like all of the beautiful things in your life and a kind of understanding, and serving, where there's need. It is a beautiful thing we learned, huh?
Yeah. And our industry is so vast, and there's so many different, things that you can be part of, right? Like someone like ourselves that own restaurant and been part of it from being a young cook or a young server, right? All of that stuff you can still participate in, right? Whether I do it at a cooking class or whether I talk to one of my line cooks or my vendors. So it's not arriving at a spot does not mean that you have to operate it with from one lens. Is the restaurant making money? Can we do better? All of those things is always going to be there. It's just how we are as people. But I think there's so many other stuff, and you're only looking at that. You're also not going to be happy. Like you need. Like I love when our line cook become a sous chef. That's not just the success of her or him. That's the success of those 25 other people in that restaurant that pushed her or him to that position and say, you can do it. Those are the little things that I try to look at. I'm like, are people staying? Not just a customer coming back, but actually staff staying. And as they're staying, are is that bar back becoming a bartender, right? If that's not the goal, uh, and the micro and the macro works together, then there's something wrong. Like in the minute that that organically is not happening, customers going to notice that too, and especially people who come to a restaurant for specific things. We have people in Metropolis that only comes on Tuesdays for the bar, and they only want to, and I love that intimate relationship that they have with the team. And so when they see a bar back becoming a bartender, they're part of that, because they've seen the journey. So those are things that we think about as restaurateurs and chefs that gets us giddy, gives us a reason to get up. Maybe staff cost has been a little bit higher, but maybe that was part of it, right? Maybe that was that educational piece that made that restaurant so much gooder, so much more delicious. That you can't just look at a P&L and be like, oh, because it's gonna show up.
Yeah. I was thinking about you're talking about employees staying around, and it's kind of like that's one really cool aspect. Like if that employee is like working within the system and feels comfortable there, that's cool. Just talking a little bit about how there are other people that are meant to pass through, and you get kind of exposure to them for a year or two or whatever, and they really can elevate people, but they're not going to be around. You can sense it, you can see it on them, and it's because they want to elevate. Are you finding that people are moving a ton still through that? The younger generation tends to move, but are chefs staying places a little longer now?
I think it's it's all about team building, right? You want to build a structure that this is a place where the magic happens. This is a place where you want to be part of. And if you're not seeing that magic, we're just not a good match. A good thing in New York or in most cities is that if you're into it, there's so many other restaurants you can work in, or hospitality groups, stuff like that. But this is the most important thing for us right here, right now. And if like at Rooster, we have that magic sauce, whether it's Harlem that guides us, whether you're a chef that is kind of 1 foot in music, 1 foot in food, or whether you're in a certain level of style. Like there's so much stickiness at Rooster that makes you want to say, the community is pushing you. So I'm like, I'm in. And this matters for me and for us. At Havmar, completely around that artistry and want to be part of that femme team that's just this makes us good. And Metropolis, obviously, with the history of that restaurant in terms of, it's where 9/11 happened. It's a very significant place, and you're part of PAC, where there's entertainment. So creating those level of vibrancies, like we're doing it right now in DC. We're about a week away from opening a restaurant in DC. And I like that our team is pretty slow. Like, we've been there now for 9 months, but we haven't opened yet. And we just need that time to gather the right team, and for that right team to tell us, yeah, you thought the restaurant would be like this, but it needs to be like this here, because here, this is what matters.
Yeah, DC's a town I haven't eaten in a while, but there's
great.
a lot there. I have to get to Philly too. Just by the way, like Philly is really popping.
Yeah. Well, DC is, you have restaurants like Albi, Simona owns La Shukran, sort of Middle Eastern, Arab, beautiful food, but not just the food. Everything that's created in those restaurants are done with high touch and warmth, and you're eating in the sense of place. You know where you're at. If you ask for a glass of red wine, they might not have that. They have orange that comes from Lebanon or something like that. Like there's a very specific thing, and I'm like, great, good for you, man. And the sensibilities are impeccable. And you coming to try that specific cuisine done by that team. You have, DC is a very diverse city because of the embassies and the schools and everything, but it doesn't get talked about as that. But you have incredible sort of, used to be the biggest. It is the biggest Ethiopian community. You have that, and then you have a strong sense of pride up and down DMV, right? Like, so Chef Anthony that works with us, he's from Maryland. He always wanted to move back home, and he's home now. And our GM, Sophia, she's from DC proper, and she's not going. She's home. Like
Good.
every single lead is from DC. They've worked in other cities, but they decided to come back home. So it's a vibrant team. I'm really excited.
When you're hiring, then, so you're saying, hey, chef, I know there's a lot of opportunities in the city, but I need like a really committed voice here. It looks like you have to ask for what you want, right? It's like, bro, this has got to be your priority, and working with us for this long will take us to this level. You have to understand.
Yeah.
And I think it's all right to ask. I think it's perfect to ask, and you need to, like you say, that consistency. Farial is electric. Yeah. Chef Sherry also seems electric. You mentioned they're just so different, but they kind of both have like this really strong way about them. And you said you're increasing kind of over the years the idea that what have we done to have those female voices in our kitchens and leadership and all of that. We know they do shit better than us. But also you get to support that. What do you see from them? Farial is like crazy personality, like woohoo, just energy.
I mean, Farial is one of the most, first of all, one of the most lovely, but also one of the most intelligent people you can just be around. She's super smart. She offers that intelligence in many different ways when we problem solve. If I ask her something, she's like, give me a second. And then she comes back to me with an idea that I'm like, that's what happened. And maybe we should solve it like that. And I was like, that's great. But it's also like, I met Farial 10 years ago, and we stayed in contact. And, during COVID, we have a chef friend, amazing chef, Michael. I was like, where is Farial now? He's like, she's in Ethiopia. She went back home, and like all of us during COVID, right? We went different places, wherever we could go. So I called her. She's like, I got COVID. Can I talk to you in a week? That first call didn't go well. And then the second call a week later when she sounded better, she's in Addis. I try to, explain and pitch the idea of the restaurant. She's like, I'm in. Give me a month. I'm moving back to the States. Right? And I was like, wow. And that was 2 years before we opened the restaurant. So we started to work on this idea together over 2 years before we opened.
Beautiful. Were you working together at that time in New York?
Yeah. And now we're on a journey together. We, I was lucky enough to do the Met Gala. Farial was part of that. We had so many different events we could do. She was part of that. So she got to know the team and add to the team. And it just, become, and it's not just Farial. She has a number two, Diane, that is incredible. She's Filipina. So it's like we got this team that is just backing each other up. We have Jay that does our bar program, Tia that is GM. They're just like in it, and asking the right questions, pushing us a lot, holding us accountable, which is great.
You need it, chef.
I want to do this. This dinner is important. We should be here. Why are we not doing more of this?
People.
All right.
No, it's all right. You're gonna push, but you need people to push too, because they're the ones that are there day in day out. I tell my GM, I have this little place, but I tell my GM, I'm like, you got to ask. You got to just like tell me when you see shit that I need to do. Like, don't worry about how I'm gonna take it. If you don't like it, you see it, you change it, you show me what your idea. Like active management, active people. I love it when my manager comes back after a night off. She's like, so I went here, and we sit down and for half an hour talk about everything about that meal. Like you say, they're in it and like sensing it elsewhere to bringing it back or like keeping the bad shit away.
Yeah, no, this is good. And with Sherry, the Metropolis inside the Pack Center, it's big place, right? It could be 1,000, not just the restaurant, but it could be 1,000 people at that theater. Uh, it could be we can have five, six, seven things going on at the same time in the building, and you know, and Sherry's in the middle of that. She's calm in the middle of all that, and it's like, okay, we're doing this in the terrace, doing this in the dining room. We got that event. We got that in the private room. So it's really this
Massive.
massive thing in that, even if the restaurant is busy, it's such a big place, so it doesn't always feel like it. Like at home, you feel at home. The minute you step in, it's like boom. So our dialogue there is just different. How do you do it? And Sherry has this. She worked with Keller for a long time, and she just has this focus and around her food. And she's from Brazil, so a lot of Brazilian, South American notes, cooking,
Mm.
which could be from the Amazon, which could be Portuguese, could be, the
Hmm.
specific things. And I love that. So I'm like, okay, I'm learning. And that's the thing for me is that at this point, I want to, if you're working with us, part is like, I'm teaching my journey, right? A lived, modern, black experience that is non-monolithic. Do not, if I see another person of color, I can never expect what that journey was about because it's not monolithic.
Hmm.
And then at the same time, I'm learning of this person's uh, journey, right? And then together we're working hard on sharing that with our audience that has another diverse and interesting back journey, right? But they choose us and we choose them. Now, like, let's make this the most delicious hour and a half together we possibly
Hmm.
can. And it's about, for me, it, it's America. It's going to have this dialogue, push and pull, and sometimes you're in more favor of what's happening around you, and sometimes you're not. But at the end of the day, you got to come together and make it delicious.
Well, restaurants. I think you said this to me, but it resonates. Of course, restaurants are really like it's like the place where people can come back to the table. To all kinds of people can come, all kinds of people, and it's like a center for hope. It's a center for a community. It's a center for like exchanges, being in the same room with the people that you wouldn't normally want to be in the
Yeah.
same room with, but then also a collection of cultures, through your food and what people have had as their personal experience, just what they pick up from their moms or what their neighborhood gave them when they were a kid, and those things evocative of childhood that really like instill and come out in your food. It's really nice that you've done the same with your cultures, Marcus, in the way that you blended restaurants and foods and cultures together and pulled them together. I guess really that's a big story for you, right? That you are trying everlasting, trying to connect, not necessarily cuisine, but people, and then show them the background and
Hmm.
the spice and the story behind it.
Yeah, I mean, people. I've been fortunate enough to been an immigrant maybe 7 times, or lived in different cultures a bunch of times, and being able to share my story through food. And you know, yeah, Ethiopia's had a huge impact on my life, and loaves have so has Sweden, but so did Japan after working over there. So did France. But at the end of the day, I live in America for the last 30 years, so America has always had the biggest influence on me. So for me, uh, my kids are American today. I'm American. My wife is American. Although our narrative, our point of views, how we got here are very different.
Mm-hmm.
But and we want to show that through our food, right? That it's not one way to be in this incredible place. There's several ways, and I think there's enough room, just like there's enough restaurant and room for new restaurants. There's enough room and space for all of us. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I really, I really believe that, and I always feel like whatever era you come from, that's the era that I came into New York in the mid '90s. Post you know crack culture, and New York was really dirty and smelly. But for me, it was the most wonderful place on earth, right?
Yes.
Because it was honest, and food wise, I felt like there was conversations started to happen that was beyond just France. It's like Italian cooking started to get really serious. Japanese food became, Nobu and everything around that became sort of changed American palate. But what Jose was doing with Spanish food, these are main staples, and I love that because that opened the door for any other, whatever other is. Obviously, internet, and then things like David Chang, Momofuku, all of that stuff was like brewing before, and like in the early 2000s, that became sort of what made New York, New York, and so much out of that then goes to Chicago and Minneapolis and other cities, and their own version of those restaurants are happening there, and they're super important. What happens in those neighborhoods in those cities, right? But New York's got to keep producing like that, and it's like New York is the birth of hip hop, and now hip hop is everywhere but in New York. So it's like it's got to come back to that.
It's funny how it changes, but New York's probably onto the next thing that'll come out pushing.
Yeah.
What's going on? All right. New York City being what it is now, Minneapolis kind of being what it is now, your restaurants mature with time too, and over the years, and with you, like when I was 45, I opened Moochie's, and now I'm 55 and I still have this Moochie's. I needed to go and wanted to go forever. I asked Gavin a question, and I think you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask you it too. Do you ever think about how long one of your restaurants is going to be open when you open it?
No. I think there's a little bit about startup in a restaurant that I never want to go away. That magical moment of nervousness, but also like, we can do anything. Are they going to come? This pre-shift service meeting matters. We're bringing on these new dishes. What we did yesterday is not working anymore. We need to try something new. That level of organized chaos or commitment, when that leaves a restaurant, it's time to close the restaurant. So that you need to live. Of course, the restaurant's going to mature into other things. But that level of that day when that pre-shift doesn't, a staff meal is not having a bunch of kids, feeling that they got to eat fast, but also want to, talk to the service staff, or, like they have to have a sense of urgency, but also like, hey, I'm going to see you later. This is going to be great. Everyone knows when you walk into a restaurant and staff meal is great. And I'm not just talking about what's on that plate, but like you can see it in restaurants where only cooks are sitting with cooks and service only cooks. No. When you have that mixed team where everybody's like sitting on, next to each other, but from different part of the restaurant. So I look at things like that. Like where are we going? Like what does staff meal look like?
You can tell who cares really fucking quick, man. You can just tell who cares, and people are like, I remember, I just got you talking like this. It just reminds me, like you always kind of kept me at that high alert state, and I really liked it because I was always not sure what to expect other than I need to keep my engine running.
Yeah, and it's like, because for that guest, that might be the only time they're engaging with us, right? So that's that level of, oh my God, this wasn't as good as I thought. This was better. And I think that desire to want to prove yourself is important. And when that beat is gone, that doesn't mean you didn't have a great run, whether it was 4 years, 1 year, 24 years, whatever, right? But it's like, hey, we need to be pushing.
We move through ideas too. It's okay to be able to be like, okay, I need to put this one down. I've worked on that, with things lately, like a closure or whatever. I just stopped doing frozen food. It wasn't serving me the way that I wanted it to. And I already kind of did it, and I thought it could be like this, but now I don't want it to. Like 7 years later, that's just not the hustle I want. I didn't really know enough about the industry that when I got into it, I was like, I like these people, but it's not necessarily my vibe. So it's good
Yeah.
to be able.
But that's also like it's a big pie, right? Hospitality is a big pie, and technology in food is now a big thing, and obviously the right size technology in a restaurant today is important because you want to know better inventory. You want to know about how you can reach your customers the right way or put it on social media. But at the end of the day, once the people in that restaurant, all that needs to go away. It just still comes down to connecting, right? So, but I think that I look at hospitality as a pie where you can still learn and it's going to have different moments. Uh, and I promised myself the day I don't feel it's exciting, I should quit. Maybe I should just teach food or something like that. But that level of sense of urgency is what I run the company on. Like, hey, this is important. It's a privilege to work together. Let's let's try to do our best.
And we are really good. We're already really
Yeah.
fucking good. So together, that power of moving through it. Always, nobody does this shit alone, man.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of leadership, you just posted something from CIA, and you won a leadership award there.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I noticed that Elizabeth Blau was also honored.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a powerhouse person. When I met her, she was putting together Jean-Georges, the Macchione brothers, Michael Mina, Todd English, and in that moment, the Bellagio transformed that city, and kind of like was the reason that a lot of chefs were like, "Hey, I can do more than I'm doing right now. This is an avenue." Imagine Elizabeth Blau like changed Vegas, man.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, Elizabeth has been incredible in the hospitality industry, and also shows that you don't have to do it by being a chef.
Oui.
She showed another side to this and was transformed American dining in many ways. And no, I mean, I just think it's an amazing achievement. And CIA for me has always been the pinnacle of where we couldn't do New York, we couldn't do our food. America couldn't do that food without having places like CIA, right? Whether it's in Napa or here, but like the underbelly of training and excellence and inspirations is there. And then there are other great local cooking schools around the country that are important as well. But so much of it come from being measured against CIA. So it's our Harvard. It's a place where we aspire to. It's a place where we get talent from. So I was extremely honored, and yeah.
Also, your son and you were featured in a book. How beautiful is that, man?
Zion is my road dog now. Like, we go together. He's upset if I do a trip, and he's not coming with. It's been part of the opening in DC.
Sweet.
Working service with us events, and he comes with me. So we just have a lot of fun with Zion and Grace, and like he's planning already about he's not going to do a lemonade stand, but he's going to do a citrus. It's all citrus. So we're doing this citrus mocktail based on, anything from calamansi to yuzu. And I was like,
Bro,
okay, go Zion.
Some citrus, man. Yes, let's go.
Yeah. So I'm like, not just lemonade. He's like, no, I want calamansi and yuzu. And I'm like, I said, that's a good idea.
Dude. Phases of fatherhood too. This is a really good one for me because my kids are kind of getting the hell out. One's graduating and one's 3 or 4 years out. It is such a cool time. I don't know that I was the best dad when they were kids. I was present and a good guy, and I always had love for them. But just the amount of time. And now, as like I say, 20 some odd years later, it's just so cool to be able to sit down and like listen to how my son sees the world. He reads about love. He reads about all of these things, shit I didn't do when I was a kid. I was out in the field playing or whatever. But it's just so nice to see how they've, So you got more good coming to you, man. Like, this is a good time with them, and wait till they get older, and then you get to push them out like employees, kind of. You give them what you can, and if you see they got that spark, you kick them the hell out, and you're like, you got more than this, support you, and leave.
Well, I hope I can keep it around for a little bit more. But no, we have so much fun, and I don't want to push the whole food thing on them, but they're they're part of it. We talk about it, and that's that.
Yeah, my son has no inclination towards the business at all.
Yeah, you
Zip.
never know. Yeah.
Anyway, hey Marcus, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining me on Niver Niver Land, my show. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Like, it took so much away from you. I still do, and that you took a moment to share with me is really freaking
Thank
cool.
you.
Dude.
And I would still say the best way to, if you're ever in Minneapolis and you need to go to the airport, Tim is still the best way to get to the airport because it goes so fast, even when we're stuck in traffic, because there's so much to talk about. So I just feel like this is an extended conversation of staff meal or us going to the airport. So I appreciate my friend.
Same here, Chef. Anytime.
I can't wait to see you again.
Chef.
Thank you.
Take care, brother. Bye.